in terms of yoga and the brain is because your body and your brain work better when they're clean.
Even if it did fail, I knew I could always go back to corporate and find a job.
Teaching cafeteria workers who work so incredibly hard, teaching them about handling fresh produce, how to get more fresh produce into the schools.
You need to tell people, bring a coffee to Coffee and Crystals.
But sometimes you need an intervention. You need a surgery, and that's okay. You get your surgery, and then you use all these other modalities in the Ayurveda to prevent things from coming back.
Hey guys, you stumbled upon Coffee and Crystals. I'm Katie, your motivator, your host, your hostess, and on this podcast, I am sharing a ton of information. And not only have I been highly caffeinated for a couple of years, I have knowledge of over 500 hours of yoga teacher training. I have been in the corporate world for over 15 years, so I will be your business coach. We'll talk about self-help, beauty, all things wellness and crystals. And in every episode, I am inviting you into my heart. And honestly, this adventure is pretty cool that we're going on together. We're going to meet some of my gurus, the wisdom of mentors and friends and family members. It's a good time. So stay hydrated, pour yourself a cup of coffee, and let's dig into today's episode. New here, thank you so much for tuning in. If you want to support the show, the best way is to make sure you are following the show on the platform that you are listening. That means going to the very top to either Apple Podcasts or Spotify and make sure that you click the plus sign, and this also will notify you when there's new shows. Another way to support me would be to write a comment or a review, share on social media the link to your favorite show, share it to somebody in your circle that you think would benefit from the show. All that stuff just helps Coffee and Crystals grow, so I appreciate it. On today's episode, we are interrupting LA Marathon training series. I know it's been all about the marathon on this podcast, so we're going to interrupt that with Nancy Loedy. She is somebody that called me her hype girl when she first met me, but honestly, Nancy is one of my hype girls. Oh, and what's really cool about Nancy is that she truly wants to change the world by helping others and helping them by rewiring their brains and getting their brains to work. Let's get into it.
Cheers. Cheers. Nancy Loedy got me all the way to Costa Rica. What town are we in?
We're near Dominican.
And we took a bus from San Jose.
That's right. We took a pretty long bus. It's 4 hours from San Jose over the most beautiful mountains to arrive on the West Coast.
Nancy Loedy is a yogi. We met at yoga school at Marianne Wells Yoga School in 2018 in Boone, North Carolina. She is a musician. She is a brain integration practitioner, which we are going to dive more into today. She's a dear friend. She's a wife. She has injuries to her brain, which has led her to her career that has changed not only her life, but also many other loved ones in her life. So super grateful to have Nancy. I do social media for Nancy, and I have been a part of her business for almost 6 years now. Did we just hit 6 years?
I think that's
4,
right.
5, 6.
Yes. Wow.
I
didn't realize it had been that
Cheers
long.
to us.
Yay. Cheers.
And by the way, she's got a crystal in her water. She came rocking a crystal.
It was a gift.
It was a Christmas gift, this water bottle. But the thing I love about crystals is they hold intention, and there is a meditation actually that has to do with water and crystals. It actually doesn't even have to have a crystal, but the meditation is if you fill a glass with water and at night kind of hold it in your hand and imagine what you would like the next day, kind of, what would make your life more easy? What would make it more purposeful? They say that the water holds that signature, and then in the morning you drink it. And it's just a beautiful practice to be more mindful about your life, and water holds energy. Masaru Emoto is the one that showed us that with the famous water crystals. So I just love it.
Well, then there we go. Nancy just educated us on the crystal of the episode, so thanks for taking that off my plate. One thing, Nancy, that I hope that I convey about you in this show is that you see people and you have a gift of just truly wanting to help people. And I don't remember exactly what the activity was called, but we were sitting low at a table inside one of the beautiful sanctuary spots in Boone, North Carolina, in the Art of Living. And Marianne had us like drawing sacred geometry. And I remember like literally wanting to cry. This is when you first met me. Okay, so you did feel this. We've never talked about this, but you were sitting next to me and I wanted to cry because I did not understand the exercise. It was almost like my brain wasn't working.
Yes.
So did I call you in because you saw that about me? Because you it was almost like you helped me with my homework. I sat there until my picture was colored. Oh, you remember this?
I do remember this. I also know it was pretty stressful for all of us. We were kind of, what I remember from it, we were all kind of in a yogic mindset, which is, a little bit less about perfection, but Marianne, our teacher, asked us to draw the yantra. And it's really mathematical. And,
See, that's where I've gotten
I think there was a lot of perfectionism, right? Because she gave us a beautiful piece of paper, we had our colors, but we actually had a limited amount of time to create something that was supposed to last us a long time, but with no skill, to start. And so I remember Nick being really a little bit overwhelmed. I was overwhelmed until I figured out kind of a way to get through my yantra. I actually, I framed it and it's at my altar. And so I look at it a lot. I'm lucky enough to see that piece of art.
Brain integration, you help a lot of people sit down and learn math and be able to study and focus and concentrate on hard things. So what is brain integration? As your social media coach, give me a elevator pitch. An elevator pitch needs to be 20 seconds or less. Tell my listeners, what is brain integration?
Okay, so brain integration is a specialized kinesiology that uses muscle testing and the acupressure meridian points to identify stress and release it in the brain. The end result of which is we can erase learning difficulties, ADD, ADHD, and dyslexia, and any learning trauma. So you go back into school or into your life and you're able to learn. And I know that those are big claims. I know that those are gigantic claims. And certainly when I heard about it, I thought it was so fake. I thought it was so fake. The person who said it to me, I just thought, well, what I really thought is if this was a thing, everybody would know about it. And I also thought, why haven't I heard of this if this is real? And also, this is unreal that your brain can change and that you could, even in my story, go from, getting F's in school to actually learning, applying myself, wanting to apply myself and get A's or complete a course. And so it just seemed too good to be true, but it's not. It actually works.
What I've learned in our yoga school is to really become a believer of something you experience, right?
Yeah.
First you're the student, then you become the teacher, and then as you kind of come into your purpose and come into your own guru, you continue to be the student. So for you, how did you become the student and the teacher of brain integration?
So, and I like what you said about the inner guru, looking within to find your answer rather than seeking it outside of yourself. I think that is such an important concept, maybe not for right this second, but I really resonate with that. So my story is that I actually was a really easy learner when I was very small. And a lot of things came very naturally to me, like music and sports. I was into soccer.
I played soccer too.
Oh, you did?
I wasn't really good at soccer, but I was super fast. So I could get there, and then I usually trip on my own feet. But I would get there probably first.
Yeah. Oh, that's fun. So, and then when I was 10, I got really sick. I had strep throat 8 times in one calendar year, and I had antibiotics for each thing. So the end result of which was that my gut flora was wiped out, which I didn't kind of realize until, maybe just a few years ago. And I developed migraines immediately. And my parents got divorced. So I had this double whammy of physical injury through antibiotics and then an emotional injury. And then my grades tanked and they did not come back up again. Like that was, I went from like easy A's, you know, until like I was in the 4th grade, and then just completely tanked. I never really learned how to study. Nobody gave me study skills. And so when my natural ability had ended, there was nothing to fall back on, like a method or a, you know, determination. There was none of that. I wasn't sleeping at night because I was eating the wrong foods. And I didn't realize that gluten was keeping me up all night. I thought I was insomniac. I wouldn't sleep at night. My skin was so, like, not quite itchy, but irritated, and I didn't know why. And I just wasn't sleeping. It just got worse and worse and worse. And then years and years and years later, I became a musician because I was still pretty good at music. And then I was a traveling musician. I played the saxophone. I got a degree in saxophone performance, and I went on the road. And all was good until this one day. I had already done my yoga teacher training, the first one, the 200-hour. And I was on my way to teach yoga, and I was in a pretty drastic car accident. And then I was in a car accident on the way to the hospital.
This is wild.
From that car accident. So I was in 2 car accidents in 1 hour, really.
Wild.
Yeah.
Okay.
That was significant. You know, it was like the universe just kind of put me in my place and everything stopped. And it was pretty bad. There were a lot of people injured in the first accident. And so I ended up leaving the scene, actually, like giving my statement to the cop. And then part of it was that in this car accident, I had my saxophone in the car, and it was my most precious thing. It was like how I made a living. My mom sacrificed a lot to give me this saxophone. It was really the most precious thing to me. And so there were a lot of people, there were about 18 people injured because one of the vehicles involved in the accident was a city bus. And so I knew that I wasn't really injured, and so I gave my statement to the cop, and I walked to the nearest train station and got in a cab. And then I had the cab driver take me home because I really couldn't fathom watching my saxophone in a hospital. Like I couldn't do both, like be injured and vigilant. And so he took me home. I quickly changed my shoes and I dropped off my horn, got back in the car, and then on the way to the hospital, that cab hit another vehicle.
Wow. Okay, so you're
That's
in the hospital.
Actual story.
Yeah, this is just that is a very unique story.
Yeah.
So you get to the hospital. Did they do work on you there that didn't work?
No. It turned out that I was injured in the breastbone,
Okay.
but nothing broke. It was amazing. I was wearing an amulet, actually, of an Om symbol underneath my shirt, and I actually had just a bone bruise in my sternum, but I had no other major issues. But the problem was, because I was so bruised, I couldn't do yoga, and I couldn't do the breath work that is playing the saxophone, because you have to move, you have to breathe a lot. So I was just kind of lost, and my brain didn't work from before, and then the one thing I could do, which was music, got decimated. A few days later, I actually went on tour to Jamaica. It was very painful. I was on painkillers the whole time.
Oh my gosh.
And that was painful. And then I had to basically rebuild my life.
So how did you meet Susan, who invented
Brain integration. So what happened was I was in Jamaica playing, and a woman had been telling me about brain integration, and I thought it was fake. But then when I got into these car accidents, she approached me and she said, you need this now. And I just surrendered and said, sure. And so I laid down for her. She started to work on my brain. And within 1 week, I had the most miraculous change. I was able to sleep through the night. I was able to get rid of all my allergies, which was gigantic for me because as a child, I was allergic to everything. And then probably the result of the antibiotics. And then I was able to see a picture in my head. And that's really the miracle of brain integration. So if, the truth, so do you see a picture in your head?
I'm almost feeling like I'm visually watching this as a movie right now.
Right. There are a lot of people who don't. And, but the brain naturally can. And here's the crazy part. If you can't see a picture in your head, brain integration can fix that wire. So this working memory space, you should be able to see what you have seen before. And so a lot of people who are good at school, they'll tell you, oh, I just look at the page in my head. But for most of the population, they're like, what are you talking about?
I've had friends, give me that as study tips, that they would literally scan and just memorize the page. And I was like, oh yeah, that's not gonna work for me.
Right.
F.
Yeah, right, precisely. So it turns out that if the hippocampal commissure in the back of the head does not work, you won't be able to do that. And that is the number one marker for a learning difficulty.
Okay, so just so everyone's clear, no medication, no surgery.
No.
What does this protocol look like?
So it's really easy, actually. So the client just lays on a massage table. It's really relaxing. A lot of times,
Especially in Costa Rica overlooking the ocean. Just saying, go on a practitioner retreat with Nancy Loedy.
Yes, if you're a practitioner of any modality, please come on a retreat. We have such a good time. We're just trading in the morning and relaxing in the afternoon and
working on each other. Very innovative procedure, laying on a mat.
Yeah, so you just lay on a massage table, fully clothed. The practitioner touches acupoints where, like an acupuncturist would put a needle. We're just using our fingers. So they're just called acupoints. Instead of acupuncture, it's called acupressure. And then we use muscle testing to identify which points are actually functioning, which ones are not. And then a very simple correction technique, which is called the frontal occipital hold. The frontal occipital hold is known throughout the world as a way of calming the nervous system. So,
is that something you can do without necessarily doing brain integration? Is
yes.
That
If you look it up online, frontal occipital hold, you'll see a lot of times people just holding someone's head, the front and the back of it. And what this really does is
feels centering.
Yes, precisely, because it encourages this parasympathetic state. So you have two nervous states. You have nervous system states. You have the sympathetic, which is your active movement part, and then you have your parasympathetic, which is your sleep, and most importantly, your healing. So if you can't switch back and forth, you have limited ability to heal and to rejuvenate. So brain integration is such a beautiful modality because it quite literally takes this move and modifies it at such a precise level that we're looking into the brain and saying, this wire is a word I use for a set of synapses, doesn't work, and now I'm going to calm the nervous system around this one wire, and then it will work. So the results are really incredible. Children go from not reading to reading. They go from not sleeping to sleeping, and sometimes it happens right then and there on the table.
Hey guys, quick interruption. I just finished my amazing lunch with Sweet Greens. Literally, Sweet Greens does not last long once it arrives at the house, but I am editing the podcast and it's time to take a quick commercial break to remind you why I decided with only 2 months to train to run the LA Marathon. I am running the LA Marathon with a nonprofit organization called the Million Mile Project. My friend Lauren started this organization to help fund your loved ones, your neighbor, your community in a program that will help them recover from addiction. If you have not been faced with the triumph of how addiction can really rip families apart and rip people apart and cause so much harm, then I am pretty confident that you will experience it in your lifetime and somebody you know has experienced it. The addiction that we have in just the US alone is real. And this is a cause that I really want to dedicate my time to make everybody aware that I am serious, that I stand by those who are wanting to recover. It's not an easy task. And running these miles and training for this marathon is a reminder of how it's so easy to want to quit things that are really difficult. And somebody that is struggling with addiction, most of them do want to be free of the addiction. They just need help. So in the show notes, there will be a direct link to my fundraising page so that you can help me reach my goal of $2,500. Thank you to everyone who has already donated. Honestly, no amount is too small. If you can just give me your coffee order for the week and just donate that $7, it's really not about how much you give, it's the amount of people that help me reach this goal. There's also an opportunity where your business can match the donations or give a grant or give some money on that link, and this is all tax refundable. So thank you again for the support, and if you're in LA, make me a sign. The race is March 17th, and that's coming right. The barn is pulling in. So thank you again for your support. My great-grandmother that I grew up with would have been so into this. Like, she had so many doctors tell her I was ADHD.
Yeah.
Like, I got my first C, I remember like it was yesterday because it was so embarrassing, was in third grade where everyone was, I don't know, in my little child Katie head, everyone was getting A's and B's, and I would come home with a C. And my sister that I grew up with was really smart, and they just kind of wanted to keep medicating me. So I didn't get the medication, but I also didn't get the brain integration. So all through college, I was barely getting by. Like, I think it was more like a motivational, inspirational thing that I just was like, I gotta get out of college. I can't put more debt on myself after year 5. But when I experienced brain integration this week with Nancy, out of all the years that we've been friends, I don't think Nancy, and I know you guys that have listened to my podcast before know that I'm writing a best-selling book. But the problem is I just haven't been writing. So in my session with Nancy, I don't know how to speak it like you would, but she found that there was a blockage that came with writing. And after that session, guys, I led her through a meditation and journaling prompt, and I wrote a whole chapter. I think 10 minutes after my brain integration session, I wrote like 4 pages. That's like needs to be edited, but I love the chapter about Anna is done thanks to brain integration.
Wow.
And what was that, an hour?
Yes, we did an hour.
So how long does the protocol usually take to fully scan someone's body and get the work done?
The full protocol that I do, which is called Crossinology Brain Integration.
We'll link it in the show notes.
Yes, is 12 hours of therapeutic work. And that is to rewire the brain from tip to stern and to test it. Because I really like what you said. You said when I was in college, it was like a willpower thing to get through it. And so this is where the rubber meets the road. So if your brain doesn't work, you have to force it to work. And a lot of times from doing that, we get tired. There's times when we don't have the willpower to force it, and there are certain things that just cannot be overcome.
Can you get depressed and sad?
Easily.
Because I think overproductivity for me, especially in this last year, I was doing so much, but I knew I had to still get those things done, but I felt like I was causing depression from being overproductive.
Yeah.
And then when I saw you in Boston about 1.5 years ago, I was in that go, go, go pitta era, as we call it, yoga talk. And you were like, you're running from something. You don't have to run anymore. So you can kind of detect emotional trauma in the brain as well.
Oh, yeah, and it's cumulative, right? It like snowballs completely. And that's one of the things that they say about learning difficulties is they say, try harder. But for a learning disability kid, a person with learning difficulties, that doesn't work. The try harder does not yield a better result. And so they give up. And then they get punished. You know, this is such a common thing and what we actually call the stress avoidance cycle, which means your brain can't do it. You are forced to continue to do it even though it doesn't work. And then after a while you get mad. So, you know, this is the classic teenager or adult who's like, I told you I couldn't do this, you forced me, and now I'm just mad. And so Susan kind of points out that behavioral issues really stem from that stress avoidance cycle. Nobody wants to be a behavioral issue.
Yeah.
It's just that they've been
And
stressed out for so
I have a bunch
long.
of behavioral issues in school. Bad grades and in trouble for being the class clown.
Right, exactly. And so then you get punished more. And then of course that's the cycle. So brain integration is so beautiful there because we improve the quality of the brain and remove those emotional issues that have built up after a while. Obviously you want to get a kid early enough that they don't have that many issues, but I work on people for the first time sometimes in their 70s when they thought they were dumb for 72 years and they just realized they're not.
Yeah.
And what kind of emotional baggage is underneath 7 decades of being tortured and punished and negative self-talk?
Yeah.
So.
Okay, we're going to take a quick break. It's easier to edit if it's broken up a little bit.
Do you want me to pause these?
On here, that's fine. That's why you do it everywhere. How can I do that? Okay, so one thing that I definitely wanted to dive into that has been really intriguing for me, probably because of this story that I shared, is feeling like I had ADHD and emotional issues as a child. What does that look like for a parent that brings a child to you and they have 12 hours? Like, how do you get the children to work with you for 12 hours? Is that broken up? Is it over a period of days?
Sure. Well, it really can be done almost any way. I think if you're in town where you do have a practitioner, it's nice to just go like every week or every couple of weeks for an hour. Or longer if the child can sit there. An adult can stay a little bit longer. Like I'll work for 3 hours in a row without taking a break. So it'd be like 4 sessions of 3 hours, but, or 12 sessions of 1 hour. But there are so few practitioners that a lot of people fly to see me. And so we actually get it done in 2 days or 2.5 days.
Okay, so you're based, just so everyone knows, she's not based out of Costa Rica yet. No, I'm just kidding. We might have a school here, who knows. Boston is where they're flying in to see you.
That's right, so they fly to Boston. Or sometimes I fly to them, and we do 12 hours over 2 days or 2.5 days, depending. And it's not that hard. I really love kids. I have a ton of toys to play with. We laugh and we giggle and we tell jokes and they sleep sometimes. And I just really, really love being with people. So it's very simple for me, and I think people really enjoy it. It's not stressful in any way. And we make it from the beginning to the end. So we're doing like a rewiring that takes a good portion of that. It takes about 8 hours to do the rewiring. And then for 4 hours, we actually test it. Does it read? Can it remember a series of numbers like from the Wechsler Intelligence Scale, which is an important test for learning difficulties? Does it do math? How does the client feel about themselves and about the things in their lives, like their parents and their siblings and their school, where they study? Is there a problem with electromagnetics? So we're rewiring the brain for roughly 8 hours. That means going through each wire of the brain. Also going through the eyes. There's so much stress and strain in the eyes. We can actually fix the eyes. I do have some people who don't need glasses afterwards, which is starting to be more common in my clientele. Fixing injuries to the face, like if you've had a concussion, multiple concussions, or like I had a soccer ball straight to the face.
Yeah, you actually reminded me. I mean, I think I've talked about it maybe somewhere on my show, how I got hit with a softball, but when I was working with you this week, I don't feel like I even remembered that happened to me.
Yeah.
And then even when just like the simple thing of like following your finger when you were doing that technique protocol, is that what it's called?
Yeah.
I think I even was like, wow, it's really blurry on the right side.
Yeah, right. So if you have an injury to the any area of the eye or the bones of the orbital bones, it affects the muscles. And if that gets affected, then your eyes actually can't move the directions they need to go. That sounds really basic, but getting someone to follow your finger back and forth is called tracking. And that is what happens when you read. So if a client actually can't track, they won't have good reading comprehension. So part of our job is to make it fluid so that they can actually read. And so there are a lot of other exercises out there, you know, like doing tracking exercises or brain gym exercises that exercise what's there. Brain integration is totally different because we're going to find the stress and then use the frontal occipital hold to release the stress, at which point the eyes track, right? Or they focus, or they can accommodate from the board to here, or from the car in front of you to your speedometer. And that's going to have a metaphysical effect, right? So now I can see my 10-year plan and my 5-year plan and my 1-year plan, and I can effortlessly go back and forth between them and without stress and without confusing them or being overwhelmed. So it's really, I really love to think metaphysically. You know, that's how I end up in yoga school.
Right.
But so I always think there's like the practical thing, which is reading, and then there's the metaphysical portion.
Kind of want to talk a little bit about your musician background. And when I went to Bali with Marianne, which I'm a little sad that you didn't make that,
I know, that was
training
sad.
with
I was
me,
really
but
sad
you
I
know,
didn't
we'll go to Bali one day together. We've got some time. But it was sound healing. I was utilizing mantra from those trips, and after Bali, there was a sense of confidence. Like when the song that I was singing, it felt like, I don't know, I guess that's just basically the statement, is it gives me so much confidence, and I feel like anyone who can sing and play music on stage to someone, to me, seems so brave and like in their highest power. And you do have that ability to play music, and you have a beautiful voice. So I guess the question is there some sort of, like, this is a yoga podcast, we teach yoga on this podcast, would there be some sort of mantra that you could suggest to the listeners that if they want to practice it on their own in the morning in a meditation?
It really depends on what you want to cultivate, doesn't it? Right? So the mantras are based on seed sounds, and sounds have vibrational quality. It's not just something that's random, you know, like they call into existence that thing that they are.
Right, that's what we learned in school. So
Right.
maybe like,
so it depends, kind of depends on what you want.
okay,
but
so maybe something I could do with my guests, if they're into it, before we jump on a podcast.
Yeah.
We're like warming up our voices, warming up our power of speech, our throat chakras.
Yes.
Okay, what would you suggest for that?
For
What
that.
should we do?
Oh, wow. Well, first I just want to say that when it comes to mantra and when it comes to affirmation, which is similar, one of the most powerful one is I am. I am. So I am is one of the most powerful mantras in the world, and it precedes I am competent, right? So if you start, I imagine, if you start with your podcastees, your podcasters, with I am, you know, and just feel like I exist, I am, a little bit, and continue to feel it. The thing about mantra and about any of those repetitive practices, like, they have to keep going. You don't just say it once. You say it over and over until it becomes your reality. And that practice is called entrainment. Right? You have to entrain the system. So once you do that, you decide the quality you would like. I am a clear channel. I am confident. I am flexible. I am free. I am beautiful. I'm worthy. I am able. I am capable. So it probably depends on what quality you want to cultivate.
Okay. What if you're feeling like you have a lot on your plate and you don't really know where to start?
Yeah.
Is there a mantra that could help with that? Because I do feel like maybe that goes more into like, how do you work more in flow with like things that are on your plate? I'm even thinking of like someone like my sister who has a job, a husband, young baby, an 8-year-old son, like, so runs 2 podcasts. Like, how do you keep going if you don't feel confident? This is what I've been struggling with a lot. And when I look at you, like, you just are able to kind of like flow into all these different like areas of your life with like, you know, the business, with your music, with your relationship, with your friends, you know, the practitioners that you're teaching. Like, is there a mantra that could help ground
to kind of live more in flow, or a song to sing?
Oh, there's lots of, I love this conversation. This is a great conversation. So I think, so the first thing you said was overworked, right? Like, I feel overworked. And so
You have told me that you have like an addiction to work.
I am a total workaholic, or am I really? I don't know. I'm working my way out of that. I used to be a workaholic.
You do it with a sense of childlike freedom. It's probably why the kids love you too. Like it's
a little
playful worker.
Well, you know, just like it with anything, it could be, you know, you do it too much and it's not that good.
Yeah.
But I think if you're overworked, I think the best concept that would work for me in that situation is I purify my mind with the thought that everything is happening at the right time. You know, like just choose to remember that everything is happening at the right time. You know, everything's happening at the right time. Everything is happening at the right time. I don't have to be done today. I don't have to be done tomorrow. Everything is happening at the right time. And I think breath is really, really great there. You know, and that's why breath can lead us to the present moment, and it's used for mindfulness, is just take a breath. Take a breath and remember that you're here now.
Yeah.
You're still walking, you know, like when you do a marathon, like I know you're getting ready for a marathon, right?
Yes.
You're not done with the first step. You're not done right at that time. You start. So I really like that one. I purify my mind with the thought that everything is happening at the right time.
Yep.
You know, I purify my mind with the thought that everything is happening at the right time.
Yeah, it's almost just the guidance that you're giving yourself is just as important as what you're telling someone you love.
Oh, easily.
You do a good job of, even when we jump on a marketing call or a touch base about your social media, of somehow reminding me of that. You know, like starting it off like, how is it going for you? Like, what are you doing to fill your cup before you kind of dive into like?
That's so important. It's so important because a lot of
things. But you do that with mantra and affirmations. It's kind of like remembering to like who you are.
Yes.
I am the best podcast hostess.
Or even like, I'm the best version of me today.
That's better.
I'm the best version of me today.
Yeah, because that takes like the competition that I put in the first one.
Well,
right?
you know, like some competition is good. Like they call that eustress. Like gravity is a eustress. You grow against it, and it helps you because of that. You know, but then there's distress, which is like the opposite. You know, like, oh no, I'll never live up to this vision of myself. Something like that.
Awesome.
But I really like that. You know, like to say like, right here, right now, this is the best version of me I can possibly be. And it might not be that great, you know, maybe I'm grouchy today, or, you know, maybe I have a headache today, or maybe I'm sleepy today, but this is the best thing I got right in this minute, and this is where I am. But I think what you're mentioning is meeting people where they're at. You know, like I think in the States have this idea, like, I gotta be over there, I have to be successful now, I have to be a millionaire now, I have to, you know, have my whole life together now, and that's just not realistic.
Yeah.
It's just not authentic.
Yeah, another thing that I think you do sometimes that I've noticed in like the business setting and the planning and the focus time is it almost seems like you're talking to your own brain.
Yeah.
Like you'll be like, okay, Nancy, everything's going to be fine.
Yeah.
Like, is that a little bit also like an affirmation? Or I also noticed in the protocol that you'll have me as the client, but clients repeat back words.
Yeah.
So that's affirmation work in the protocol?
So this is a beautiful thing because in muscle testing, the most beautiful thing about the energy body is that through muscle testing, the practitioner can find, in this case, emotional issues on someone that they don't know.
Your issues are in your tissues.
Precisely. And I like that phrase. That's cool. I hadn't heard that. But, you know, through the muscle testing, you can find it. So people, maybe they've never met before. Maybe I've got a client on the table for the very first time, and I scan a list of emotions, and it will show me what's happening. And then I have the client say the emotion, but then also say, which is usually negative, right? But then also say the positive one. Or sometimes you just go around it and say, well, how do you feel? I feel grumpy. And how would you like to feel? I'd like to feel relaxed, you know?
Yeah, I think something from working with you that has been really helpful is really kind of loving the negative things that come up in a way of like, I think a lot of times, and I think it was you that mentioned it, that sometimes people don't come to you for help because they have so much shame around what it is they're struggling with.
Right.
And I can really relate to that, especially when I started going to therapy. I would like spend an hour and she'd be like, anything else? And in my head I had a whole list that I was too shameful to even talk to her about.
Yes.
But like in the protocol, it's like no, I want to actually hear a little bit more about that, because that's how we're gonna break through. And you do it in a way, and it's just so comfortable. Maybe it's like the no medicine, no surgery. It's not invasive. That it's like in a way, you can feel the healing and the therapy of it, because it's
absolutely.
just like it's very safe.
Compassion is the only way forward, and self-compassion is the first thing.
Yeah.
Compassion is the only way forward.
I love that.
You can't do it through effort and through strength. It's compassion.
Compassion and love.
Yeah. Compassion and love. And it starts with compassion for yourself. But if you can't get there, you have compassion for somebody else first.
Yeah.
And then you try to reverse engineer it, apply it to yourself, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I always learn when I'm with Nancy. Like you're just like educated on a bunch of different subjects. So since we've kind of started a book club here at Coffee and Crystals, if someone is interested in becoming a BIT practitioner, we're gonna link that in the show notes, and there's a ton of information on your really cool new website.
That's right.
You guys gotta check it out.
Brand
You
new
can
website.
literally do the pre-BIT course, which is the first course.
First module.
Okay, and that takes how long to complete?
So it's a self-paced course. It's 8 videos of about 3 hours, that
Okay.
particular course. It's the first module to become a BIT practitioner. However, it stands on its own. So if you only took that one class, you could help your whole community and yourself. I really
Amazing.
love that. You know, I'm all about the long game. I was saying to Alexis today, and she said that too. You know, it's not so much what happens right in this second, but where will it go? You know, like when you drop that pebble in the water and it makes those concentric circles, how far will they go? The long game there.
Yeah.
So I really feel like just with a tiny bit of information, you could help your entire community, which is way better than coming to me, because I can't help everybody. There are limited hours in the day. And the other thing is, the common person is very talented and wants to help their neighbor. And it just works perfectly. It just works perfectly.
I love that.
Yeah.
Is there books that you would recommend also if you're interested in energy and touch for health and brain integration?
Yes.
All right, give us some.
Okay, so I'll start with the brain integration ones. The textbook for brain integration, which is a little heady and scientific, is called Vibrational Medicine by Dr. Richard Gerber.
She gave it to me.
And
Maybe you let me borrow it and I never gave it back. But I have it.
No, I think I sent it to your house.
Yeah, okay.
So it's so good because he just explains in a scientific way what the energy body is, all the different ways it shows up, and many different ways that people have been using the energy body for millennia that are available to you now. So it's an awesome textbook if you're into science. If you want something a little bit, not as heady, not as scientific, Susan McCrossan wrote a book called Breaking the Learning Barrier, where she explains brain integration.
I didn't know this.
Yeah, and it
I
also
might have
has...
known it, but I haven't read it.
Right. It also has a bunch of testimonials.
Okay.
And like actual, case studies of what actually happened for Susan. So there's 2 really great ones. Another
You can
one,
also check out Nancy's Instagram. I share a lot of her customer testimonials.
Right.
You know, if you just want to flip through there, there's real stories from real clients.
Yeah.
That's how the Katie Way does marketing. There's no fluff. There's no like special SEO and special hashtag keywords. It's real life stuff, so you can check that out there.
Yeah, and I think that that's important. And a lot of it you wouldn't think of. Like
Yeah.
one of my favorite testimonials, I asked a woman what she was getting out of brain integration, and she said, Nancy, I was never able to get the ingredients for dinner together quickly enough to have dinner on the table on time for my family, and now I can. And at first when she said that to me, I thought, I would never put that in a brochure.
But that's the circle of life you were kind of talking with the pebble. That's
right.
Big, long-term stuff.
Yes, and that's the thing is when you get brain integration, it affects you in the way that your life is, right? So for me, it was sleeping, inability to read, and inability to do my to-do list. I couldn't even make a to-do list. Like now I kind of eat up to-do lists. I'm like, where's my next to-do list? Because my brain is pretty fast now, And
Tuned in, tapped in.
Yeah, so it doesn't make everybody the same. It goes to what your brain can't do and allows access there. So there are some people who are very good at school who have brain integration. Maybe don't have as much access to their emotions and to the Gestalt side, which sees the big picture, and that happens as well. Which is really, really great. But another book I really love, one of my favorites, is Energy Medicine by Donna Eden. Donna Eden is pretty famous in the energy world, and she is just a delight. I really love her 5-minute energy routine, all these little practical things you can do at home for free to make your life better, your children's lives better, your mom, your dad.
Make a believer out of you.
Right?
Because once you experience this, there's no turning back.
You don't go back.
It's just like
there's
too
no
real.
Yeah, there's no going back after brain integration.
Yeah.
No going back.
Nancy, I think you answered this question on the show before, but for anyone listening and meeting my dearest friend Nancy for the first time, what would you say your purpose on this planet is?
Oh, man. Oh, what a question. I kind of have two answers. I think one of my purposes is just to play music, frankly. I really love music, and when I play the saxophone, I'm in a love affair with the saxophone and with music that spans a lot of different parts of my life. But right now I feel really stitched to a particular purpose, and that is teaching brain integration. I'm lucky enough to have the opportunity to teach Susan McCrossan's work and what she did develop, and I am just delighted. Like, it really changed my life. It changed my brain. It changes everybody I know. This is my 13th year practicing it. It's my 7th or 8th year teaching it, and I took over the full teaching about 2 years ago. And the most beautiful thing is, with a tiny little bit of technique, you can help everybody around you. And I'm always thinking about those people, the people around you who will get help. Like, that's really my long game. I think when it comes to Languages of Love, which is another great book, mine is acts of service. And I am fairly empathetic. So I'm all about that. Like, how can I apply myself that the world becomes a better place? And I think those are kind of like key words that everybody's, they're trending because they feel great when you do them. When you help others, you feel amazing. And you ask almost anybody what they want to do in their life, and they're like, how can I help others?
Yeah.
So this is a way to help others on a massive, massive, massive scale that really changes the quality of their life, because it changes the ability of their brain. If your brain is already there, it's just blockages to what it does. And so when you remove those blockages, guess what? Now it reads, it learns, it sleeps, it thinks.
It wants to help other people. I think when you're blocked, you can't help other people.
No, you can't. You can't help yourself. Yeah. That's really one of the things. So with you specifically, the other day, I was muscle testing what is our protocol, and what came up was called written expression. And I know that when that comes up, that when people try to write, their minds go blank in that split second, and then you kind of have to like start the engine and like get it going and use a prompt and tap a little bit and get it going. And so these are the type of people where the teacher said, write a book report on anything, or do a report on any animal, and your mind goes blank. And the reason why is there's not enough structure there. And so it's easily fixable. And so that's what I did for you. I used some specific acupoints here at stomach 12. I did the frontal occipital hold, and I used the amygdala, which is what goes into fight or flight. And after that, just like you said, we sat down in meditation. Next thing I know, she said I wrote a whole chapter.
Yeah.
And
Anna, if you're listening, your chapter is going to be like a nail biter. Not really. I think it's going to be full of love and compassion like you are.
That's so sweet.
It is.
Well, that's the miracle, is that, gosh, you changed right in that minute. You went from blank.
And I actually haven't had the full 12 hours
That's right.
with Nancy. So I am a full-blown believer who hasn't even been able to get the full work from Nancy.
No, the thing is, you get a change in the first hour. And that's maybe one of the most unique parts is there are a lot of people who don't finish the 12 hours. They get
I
so
do get
much
access to her more than most people. So there's that.
But clients do get so much change in the first hour that sometimes they don't come back. Like, sometimes that's enough change for them.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's pretty amazing.
Well, Nancy, I love you so much.
I love you too.
Thank you. I'm like
Thank you for
tearing
being
up. So grateful to have her in my life.
Yes.
Please, if you're not following Nancy on social media, all the links will be in the show notes. Pura vida.
Pura vida.